Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Lisa. I produce beauty related content here on YouTube. I wanted to do an updated kind of 20 random facts about me video. I've had a lot of new subscribers recently, so thank you guys so much for clicking that button and subscribing to my channel. It really does mean a lot to me, and I'm loving connecting with you guys in the comments down below my videos. But I realized that I haven't done a get to know me or all about me video in a long time. I think the last one was when I first started my channel, and I can't even watch it. I seriously haven't watched it in probably 2 years because I'm kind of embarrassed to see what it looks like. So I just wanted to do an updated kind of random 20 facts about me, get to know me for those of you that are new to my channel, or those of you that have been around and I've just never shared this information with you. So anyway, let's just go ahead and get started. Okay, so I've been sitting here for like the last 20 minutes, kind of just jotting down some random things about myself and questions that other YouTubers will cover in videos like this. And then I text some girlfriends and I was like, what should I put in this video? So in no particular order, I just have some random 20 facts about me. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so where do I live and where am I from? I live in Austin and I'm from Austin. I'm a very, very proud Austinite. I have lived here my entire life except for 2 years that I lived in San Antonio in my early 20s for a job when I was working for Mac. How old am I? I am 34 years old. So I feel like I've really kind of found my place here on YouTube. When I first started YouTube, I started watching all the really young girls that were the big names on YouTube, girls that were 10 years younger than me that I didn't really quite relate to. And I feel like I've really kind of found my community here on YouTube, and I hope that I can offer you guys something different, a perspective of a little bit of a, I don't want to say mature, I am mature, but you know what I'm saying. I'm not in my 20s, and I feel like I can offer something different on YouTube than that. So how tall am I and how much do I weigh? I am 5'2", I'm very short, and I weigh about 117 pounds, give or take a pound or two. How did I get my start in makeup? So I have been doing makeup professionally, and when I say professionally, I mean when I got my first job at a Mac makeup counter. I was 18 years old, and I'm 34 now, so what is that, 14 years? No, that's 16 years. That is 16 years, you guys. Wow, that's how I got my start in makeup. I started working at the Mac counter when I was right out of high school. I was spending all my time at the Mac counter, and one of the sweet assistant managers there told me about a part-time position that was opening up for a 12-hour position, and you would have thought that it was like, I mean, that was like, I just felt like that was my dream job at the time. It was just, and looking back on those days, that was such a fun time in my life. Obviously, I was young. I had no responsibilities. I was doing makeup all day. It was really good time. So, but yeah, that's how I got my start. And it's just kind of evolved and grown into what it is today. How did I meet my husband? So my husband's name is Paul. We have been married, actually, we're celebrating 10 years of marriage this year. We have been together for 14 years. We met when we were little babies. I was 20 years old, and he was 21 or 22. He's just a little over a year older than me. But we met when we were both in college. He's from Austin also, so we didn't go to the same high school growing up, but we both went to high school in Austin. And so, you know, Austin's not a small town, but if you're from here, you know, what's that thing, 6 degrees of separation. You kind of, if you don't know someone, you know people in their little group. And we just met when we were in college, and it turned out that we had been at a lot of the same parties and things in high school and college that before we actually met. So we realized we had a lot of friends in common after we actually met. How many kids do we have? So we have 2 little girls. We have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. She'll be 3 next month. So they are my pride and joy. I'll post a family picture here so you guys can see my little family, but that is definitely my most proud accomplishment is my beautiful family. I love being a mother. How did I start on YouTube? So I started on YouTube about 3 years ago. My kind of background as it relates to makeup is, you know, I started working at Mac when I was 18. I worked there for about 5 years, and when I left Mac, I started working in advertising sales. So I sold for a radio station, and then I sold for a couple of TV stations in Austin. So I sold advertising. So when you see commercials on TV, those were my clients. And when I left MAC and I started doing that, it wasn't more than about a year that went by, and I realized that I missed doing makeup. So I started a wedding makeup business on the side, and I would work, you know, in advertising during the week, and then on the weekends I would do wedding makeup. And this was before kids. So I was working 7 days a week. I was doing my career, and then I was doing my passion on the side. And when I had my first daughter, I kind of put everything on pause. I quit working in advertising, and I even pulled back from doing wedding makeup quite a bit. And you know, after about a year and a half or 2 years, I just kept feeling that tug from within. I just needed to do makeup in some capacity, and I really loved teaching makeup. That's what I loved most about working at MAC, was teaching people how to do makeup. And I was a trainer for the last 2 years that I was there. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I loved teaching. I love the teaching element and sharing with other women and teaching tips and tricks. And so I thought YouTube would be a great outlet for that. So I was pregnant with my second daughter when I started my channel here on YouTube, and I just set up a little tiny tripod in her crib. Actually, this was before she was born. I was pregnant. And you know, I was just in her empty nursery doing videos before she was born. So that's how I started YouTube. What is one thing that I regret in my life? I would probably say I don't regret much, but I think the one thing that I do regret is a tattoo that I got when I was about 18 years old. And not that I have anything against tattoos, I don't, but this tattoo was not planned. It was just, I literally was like, oh, I have $100. What can I buy for $100? Well, maybe I'll go buy a tattoo. And I walked into a tattoo parlor and I picked something off the wall and I got a tattoo. And I quickly regretted it. I would say within couple of weeks I started to regret it. And when I was in my mid-20s, I started the process of getting it removed, which is a very long and painful and expensive process. At that time, they didn't have the greatest lasers, and so I went through probably 6 or 8 treatments of having that removed, and it was really painful. I think I was paying about $600 every time I went, so you know, 6 or 8 times $600, and I stopped seeing any progress. It was so painful. My skin would blister, and it was literally, it felt like, the best way to describe it is like someone had a blowtorch and they were just blowtorching your skin. That's what it felt like. And after like the 6th, 7th, 8th time, I was like, I don't even think the thing's fading anymore. I don't see any change from before I did this treatment to after this treatment, and it's healed. So I just put it on pause. I was like, forget it. And then I waited years, got pregnant, had my first daughter, and then they came out with a new technology called PicoSure, which was supposed to be a much better laser, more effective. And so I started doing that again. So the whole process took me like 8 or 9 years of going through this whole tattoo removal process. And even today, it's not completely removed. Like, it doesn't look like it did before I had a tattoo. You can definitely tell something was there, but it's not a tattoo anymore. It's just kind of like a weird scar. Like, if you were to see me in a swimsuit, you would be like, what's on her back? Like, you would know something was there, but it's not a tattoo anymore. It's not the silly little thing that I picked out on the wall when I was 18 years old. So, but that's the one thing I regret. I think if I could go back and change that part of that decision, that's one decision I would definitely change. Okay, so what do I enjoy and what are my passions? Well, obviously makeup is a big passion of mine. YouTube is a passion of mine. I have a blog, that's a big passion of mine as well. Fitness and nutrition definitely falls right in line with makeup and YouTube and all of that though. When I was 18 or 19 years old, I had put on a lot of weight just because I was, you know, I just didn't know about nutrition, and I was young and partying and eating, you know, fast food all the time, and I had gained a lot of weight. And so when I had that journey of starting to lose that weight, I lost about 40 pounds in a period of about 6 months. And from that point on, I've just always incorporated fitness into my daily life. Like, that is just part of who I am. I love exercising. I watch what I eat. I eat pretty healthy most of the time. Of course, not all of the time. I mean, I have a glass of wine in front of me now. I, you know, indulge when I want, but overall, I would say I eat healthy at least 80% of the time. And, so fitness is definitely another passion of mine, and I'm going to talk a little bit more. I have some other questions that kind of let me elaborate on that. But so makeup, fitness, another passion of mine are my children. I think that's what any mother would say, but I think that if I look at what consumes my thoughts in my life, it's going to be those things right there. Do I have any pets? I do. We have 2 pugs, Max and Harley. I'll put a little picture of them right here. They're adorable. They're old now. They're little old men. This picture was like 8 or 9 years old. So this is when they were young little studs. Now they're nice and salt and pepper on their face. They're just so cute, but they're old. We got Harley the first year that my husband and I met. So he's almost 14 years old. And then we got Max about a year later. So in dog years, you know, they're getting up there. They're definitely senior dogs. What's something I wish I could change about myself? I think that there are a few things. So something I wish I could change about myself. I think one thing that I'm constantly working to be better at is just being a really patient mother and wife. You know, having young kids is exhausting. Anyone out there that has young kids, you guys can probably relate to that. But it's just reminding myself to have the patience so that at the end of the day, I don't have any regrets about the way that I handled situations with my kids, or, you know, just being a patient mom. That's something I'm always constantly working to be. And then I worry a lot. So, and maybe that's just a mother thing, but I spend a lot of time worrying about things that are completely out of my control. And, you know, I mean, I think there's a good, healthy level of worry, because I think that you negate certain things happening if you're a little worried or cautious of things. But at the same time, I think that I can worry to a fault. So that's one thing I would change about myself. And I have a little bit of anxiety, I guess. I mean, I never really use that word to describe myself, but I do get easily worked up, or if I feel like I have a lot to do, I get easily kind of worked up about it. And I wish I could just control that a little bit more and keep that in check, you know, and be a little bit more relaxed about things. But I think part of it is just being a mother too. You know, you feel like you have to control and keep everything in running in your household, you know, your kids, your husband, everything. I mean, I feel like I'm very regimented, and I like things to run. I'm always kind of looking at the clock to make sure that we don't get behind or that we stay on schedule, which is good, but at the same time, I think that it prevents me from really enjoying the moment, because I'm too concerned with like, okay, we gotta hurry up, we gotta do this, we gotta do that, you know, and we don't really have to, you know, it's okay. So I think I think those are things that I probably wish I could change about myself. And I think that I think if I didn't worry so much and I relaxed a little bit, I would be that more patient mom that I want to be every day. So what did I do before I had kids? Well, I talked a little bit about it already. I worked in advertising sales. So I spent most of my career working in TV advertising sales. I did work in radio for a little bit, but I worked for the CBS and NBC affiliate here in Austin, selling advertising. So one thing that one of my girlfriends said I had to talk about was this bikini competition that I did, fitness competition. It has been a while. It's been 7 years. I always like to plug this in because it's like that moment where I'm like, I did this, but really, come on, Lisa, it was 7 years ago. Let's move on with our life. But 7 years ago I did, and it's like a bodybuilding competition, but the classification that I was in was bikini, so it wasn't like really bodybuilding or really muscular. And I'll post a picture of that there, but I decided to do this competition. I'll never forget this. One of my really good friends was really into this, into fitness training and competing, and she was kind of putting the bug in my ear that I should try it, because I did like working out a lot, and you know, I thought that, and I had asked her about it a little bit, and she told me that I should just do it. And I remember telling my husband, it was like the last week in December, and I guess this was 2009. It was last week of December into 2009, and I was telling him, and my friend Chelsea had just gotten featured in Oxygen magazine, which is like one of the best magazines for fitness. I don't even know if if it's still around, but at the time it was like the best magazine for fitness girls. You know, it was like, it wasn't just like your Shape mainstream magazine. It was more like for fitness girls who like to train. And Chelsea had been in that magazine. I remember telling Paul, I just want to be in this magazine. I want to compete, and I want to get in this magazine. I told him that. And so I hired a trainer, and I went through this 12-week training where I trained pretty hardcore. I was working out like 3 hours a day, and I was, you know, really regimented on my diet. I was really disciplined, and I competed in this competition, and I actually got second place. I was really proud of that. Yeah, that was one thing. I think I'm glad that I did that, because I learned a lot from that experience. It also was pretty damaging to me as well. I'm going to link a blog article that I talk about that whole experience down below in the description box, because I don't want to get too much into it in this video, but I'm glad that I did it. I wouldn't recommend it though. And again, if you're curious as to know why, you can read that blog post. But that is one thing that I did that I think really had an impact on who I am today, and just taught me a lot about myself from that whole experience. But with that said, I did get an Oxygen magazine like I wanted to, and I will post a picture of that as well. It was really cool. I submitted my picture and I had no idea that I was going to get selected or not, and a friend of mine on Facebook one day just tagged me and said, look who I saw in my Oxygen magazine, and it was me, and I was so excited. My favorite wine is what I'm drinking now. It's Kim Crawford's Sauvignon Blanc. I know it's a really popular white wine, but it's what I drink all the time. Okay, so pet peeves. What are some pet peeves? Well, I think that pet peeves of mine are just the overall mom stuff, leaving your dirty dishes out, not picking up after yourself. Is that a pet peeve? That drives me nuts. Oh, this is a big pet peeve of mine. Like people that wash their hands or brush their teeth or wash their face and they leave water all over the sink. Like my husband does that and I'm like, can you wipe that up? And he's like, it's just water, it's gonna dry. I'm like, no, it won't dry. It's like a puddle of it. And then when it does dry after a couple of days, it's gonna leave watermarks. Just clean it up. That's my biggest pet peeve. Okay, so my favorite vacation spot. I think the most memorable place that we have gone to is Papagayo Beach in Costa Rica. We went there, it has been probably 6 or 7 years. It's been a while. Oh, maybe 7 or 8 years. Anyway, it doesn't matter, but we stayed at the Four Seasons one night there and it was so beautiful. But that was the most magical place that I had ever been. It was so beautiful. We've been to a lot of beaches. My husband's family goes on a family vacation every year together. We go on a big family vacation and we always usually go to the beach. So we've been to Costa Rica, Puerto Rico, my husband and I have been to Hawaii, we've been to Mexico, I don't know how many times, and I think that beach in Costa Rica was one of the most beautiful and memorable places that we have been. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about my story with MAC. So when I started with MAC, I was 18 and I just was working a 12-hour position at the makeup counter. And I grew into a full-time position and grew into like what they call an assistant manager, third key position. And then this position for a trainer popped up. And I didn't think there was any chance that I would get it. It would have required me to move to San Antonio. I would have been over about 8 different markets training all the makeup artists that worked within those stores. And I was 22 or 23 at the time. I mean, I was young. I really wasn't ready to move up from Austin at all, but I threw my name in the hat because I wanted them to know, like, I want to move up with this company. I want to be here. Consider me is kind of what my thought process was. Well, I got the job. So Paul and I, we weren't married at the time. We moved to San Antonio and I did that for 2 years. And that was probably the 2 years that I grew the most as a makeup artist, I think, is because I got to work with so many different other makeup artists. You know, when I was working at that one makeup counter in Saks Fifth Avenue, which is where I started, I just worked with the same people who were all great, but you know, I was only exposed to those different makeup artists. When I was in this position, I was literally working with 160 different makeup artists in different cities and different markets have different styles. And it's really interesting to go like down to the border towns by Mexico and Texas and see those women, because those women like to wear more makeup. They're real glamorous. And so it was very eye-opening for me going from a very conservative counter in Austin, which, you know, Austin's kind of more natural, and Saks Fifth Avenue is a little older, more conservative clientele, to going down to the border towns and working with women from Mexico that loved a lot of makeup and loved a lot of glam. It really stretched me out of my comfort zone as a makeup artist, and I think that I worked with some of the most talented makeup artists that I've ever seen and still seen from those locations. So that was a really cool experience, and I did that for about 2 years. I just decided to leave after we had gotten married. We'd gotten married and we were both from Austin, and we had been in San Antonio for 2 years, but we knew that that's not where we wanted to settle down. And you know, working for MAC, there wasn't a lot of places to go up, you know, unless you were real willing to move around, which I wasn't. I wanted to get back to Austin, and there wasn't a lot of opportunity for me there. So I decided to leave the company, and that's when I got into selling advertising. How I fell in love with makeup. So I fell in love with makeup at a really early age. I mean, I can remember being 12 years old and just loving it. I just loved makeup. I don't know, you know, it gave a lot of confidence when I would put makeup on, but I think it was also my creative outlet. I always liked art when I was little and younger. I always remember painting and all of that. I never really stuck with that though. I think I adopted makeup as my form of creativity and artistry. And I just love the way that it completely transforms you. I mean, I think that for the longest time, I mean, really until the last 5 or 6 years, I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself, and I wasn't really aware of it then, but looking back I am, because I would never let anyone see me without makeup. And I think that comes from a lack of confidence and self-esteem a little bit. Now I don't care. Like, I'll leave the house with well, I won't leave the house with nothing on. I'll put eyebrows on and I'll put a little bit of stuff, but before I would have to do a full face of makeup before anyone could see me. And now, you know, that's not the case. But I think that, you know, for me, it gave me a lot of confidence and self-esteem at a young age. So the coolest thing that I've ever done as a makeup artist was definitely Dan Rather's makeup. Dan Rather came to Austin. This is a cool story. I was actually working at Saks. I was working on a Sunday, which I didn't work many Sundays. It was like the one Sunday a month that I worked. And we got a phone call, and it was from some lady who was being really vague on the phone. She didn't say who needed makeup. She just said there was a news anchor that needed makeup done that day, and if there was anyone that could come to the Hilton Hotel right by the airport and do makeup on a male news anchor. That's all she said. So I thought it was like a local news anchor, and to be honest, I didn't really want to do it, but I have a hard time saying no, especially back then. I couldn't say no to people. So I went, and when I show up, I find out that it's Dan Rather. And the even cooler part about this whole story is that I remember the producer walking me in and kind of prepping me for getting ready to do his makeup, and she said, I just want to let you know you're going to hear some things in this. It was for a 60 minutes interview. She's like, you're going to hear some things that are pretty disturbing, and you know, we just want you to be prepared for that. And I think I did sign something saying that I wouldn't talk about what I had heard until after the show aired or something like that. I think I vaguely remember that. This was a long time ago, but I do specifically remember her prepping me, telling me like, you're going to hear some stuff. It might be just disturbing, whatever. And it ended up being the interview that got Dan Rather and all that heat. He did this story on George Bush, who at the time was the president, and it basically kind of talked about like how George Bush didn't serve his it was basically a story that kind of like uncovered that George W. Bush didn't really fulfill his he had supposedly had said he did, like, yeah, I think it was the Air Force or something, but he, basically the story was kind of positioned to make it look like he didn't do that he got special treatment because who he was or something like that. But anyway, long story short is that 60 Minutes aired, and he ended up getting fired from CBS because of that interview, and CBS kind of pointed the finger at him, saying that they didn't, that he kind of ran with that story, or that they kind of like blamed him for running with that story. Who knows the truth? I don't know, but I just think that it was neat to be, you know, to do his makeup for such a monumental interview. But I will say this about Dan Rather. He is very, very nice and very humble and down to earth. And I remember doing his makeup, and he was talking to his producer, and I was just trying to stay out of the, you know, I wasn't trying, I'm just there to do makeup. Like, I'm not talking, I'm not trying to interrupt, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to do my job and let them do their thing, almost to be like a fly on the wall kind of thing. And I remember him, like, she's talking to him, and he's just looking at me, and he's saying, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for coming and doing this at the last minute. He was just so nice. And, you know, I mean, I don't know why he wouldn't be, but I guess when you meet a celebrity or someone famous, you just never expect them to be that humble and nice and down to earth, and he was very, very, very nice man. So that was definitely the coolest point in my makeup career, I think. Okay, well, that sums up my list. This video is almost 30 minutes long. It's probably going to get edited down quite a bit, but anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed these random facts about me. Let me know in the comment section below if there's something you want to know that I didn't cover. Thank you guys for watching. Welcome to my channel if you're new. You guys, one thing you will learn about me if you don't already know is that I'm very passionate about what I do on YouTube. This is a passion of mine. I do work. You know, I work, I'm a mom. YouTube is not my job. So it's just really a passion, and what keeps me going is connecting with you guys, and just feeling like I can make some type of difference, or make some type of positive impact on your day, even if it's just watching a silly video like this about 20 facts about some random person like myself. So anyway, you guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys on my next video. Bye.